Explore the Script of Life. Xiafeng. March 24, 2017. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. Is life dominated by fate? How does fate come into being? Is everything in life prearranged? If it is, then who arranged and directs it, and how can we still have free will? If there is free will, does it conflict with fate? If there is no free will, then does the causality law of you reap what you sow exist, or does it not? Is it true that every word and every act of everyone is prearranged? If so, then are we not biological robots? Is everything accidental or inevitable? Who carries out punishments, rewards, and so on? It is an extremely complex and enormous system, and it is impossible to reveal the whole system clearly. I can only draw a rough outline, and you, the reader, must verify it for yourself. 18 plots cannot be controlled by people in their own lives but have to be resigned to destiny. For example, their own parents cannot be chosen, arranged, or controlled by them. In fact, a lot of things in life cannot be either. Not only are the sizes of our eyes uncontrollable, but we cannot even arrange a single hair by ourselves. In the face of such vast complexities, we have to resign ourselves to destiny. If we cannot change things, then what can we do? Everything in the universe has its trajectory, all of which are run according to a well-arranged overall trajectory, and we are no exception. That is to say, we also have our trajectories. These trajectories determine the directions of people's lives, whether they will be officials or commoners, poor or rich, or male or female, and be subject to fortune or misfortune. Everything and everyone have been determined by their trajectory. Facing our trajectory, we are powerless. Who is writing your life script and arranging your trajectory of life? You are. Who is directing it? It is procedure. Everything in this life is established by the thoughts and actions of your previous life. This is fate. It is impossible to change the fate of your life because it has already been written. All of your efforts in this life only work for your next life. It can be said that your past determines your present and your present determines your future. Since everything has already been arranged and planned out and the story and plot of your life has already been set, then how do we reflect on man's subjective initiative? What good are an individual's efforts? If even what we say and do have been determined in advance, then why should we make any efforts? Individual efforts are reflected in one's mind and how perfect a role they play. Our inner activities are not arranged by our script. Our free will is reflected in our mind and whether our specific role is performed perfectly or not. Such as in a stage play, the script has been arranged by a writer in advance. The director selects performers according to each performer's appearance, character, acting skill, and so on. The performers must act strictly according to the script and plot and the director's requirement. If done well, the director will be pleased and the actors will receive more pay and have more chances to perform in future plays. If done poorly, the director will not be pleased and their opportunity for future castings will diminish. The quality of their performance depends on them. This is individual effort. Our inner activities are not arranged, nor are they destined. They rely completely on the free will and effort of the individual. It is entirely up to them to decide whether they want to have good or evil thoughts. Our inner activity is our thinking activity. Thinking activity is like a wave that spreads throughout the universe. That is, when the mind moves, its inner activity expands out to the universe and tells the universe what it is doing, and very loudly. Regarding this, we are unable to view or receive it, but gods know it. In other words, everyone's inner activities can be learned instantly by the universe and recorded in the procedure of Tao. The procedure of Tao automatically arranges the future fate and trajectory of everyone's life based on their inner activities. Karma, karma, karma. Then who rewards and punishes and who executes the mechanisms of rewarding and punishing? Rewarding and punishing are determined by the procedure of Tao. but it is only the judge. The executor is neither the procedure of Tao nor the judge, but a factor of the boundless universe. A god or man, a dog, an ant, a storm, or an event. It is like a judge who sentences someone to death but never executes anyone personally. That is always left for a series of other people. The script of this life has been set long ago, but the script of the next life is always changing. People's thoughts and actions in this life identify their future life trajectories. If someone is destined to leave for the Celestial Islands continent but becomes seized by evil and does not play their current role well, then their trajectory of life to the Celestial Islands continent will change. Their revised trajectory may devolve toward the 10,000-year world, the 1,000-year world, back to the mortal world, or even to the animal world or to hell depending on the severity of what they do. As Life Chanuan's guide, I sigh with deep emotion during my directing the scripts of Chanyuan Celestials. For instance, I planned to have a certain individual eat a fairy peach which had been determined by her trajectory of life. However, she failed to play her role as a Chanyuan Celestial well in her course. I asked her to clean a toilet, but she failed to clean it thoroughly, so I knew that she was still unable to eat the fairy peach, but only wild peaches. In this way, both her fate and her trajectory of life were changed. It is a strict law that absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If we do not reach an absolutely beautiful state, then absolutely beautiful results will never appear. When we enjoy absolutely beautiful things but our personal quality declines, then those absolutely beautiful things automatically disappear. This is not only the law and the script plot, but also the ever-changing living script. Past scripts are dead, future ones are alive, and living ones are always changing according to everyone's inner activities and how well or poorly they perform. The impartiality of Tao is reflected in Tao gives to every life according to its desires. If you desire blessings in this life, Tao will bestow them upon you, but fewer will remain for your next life. If you want to become a wolf, it will make you one in your next script. If you want to become a celestial being, it will make you one. Tao will surely satisfy you and help you to achieve your goal, whatever you want to be, but it must be understood that the fulfillment of Tao is not executed immediately. It is arranged in the script, it takes a process, and it takes time. You cannot expect an airplane to come the moment you ask for it. You need to be patient. It is crucial to remember that as your plane is coming, your needs cannot change. Once there is a change, Tao has to follow your needs. If you want coffee, but then decide that you would prefer tea, Tao will immediately prepare tea for you. If the tea has not yet arrived and you decide that you would prefer Coca-Cola, Tao will prepare Coca-Cola for you right away. When you change again, Tao will change again. In short, it will always satisfy you. Now, here is a core consideration. If you want a luxury car worth $1 million, Tao will check your bank account, your merits and virtues. If they are insufficient and your bank deposits are not enough, then that $1 million limousine will not be offered to you. Even if you need a needle, you have to check your bank deposits. As long as you have enough merits and virtues, enough bank deposits for what you want, Tao will meet your requirements and demands, or help you to achieve your goal. When a person runs out of bank deposits or when their merits and virtues are exhausted and they have no remaining blessings, then they will soon collapse, fail, lose everything, go to prison, or end this life. Therefore, we need to give benefits, accumulate merits and virtues, and cherish good fortune during our lifetimes so that our blessings will last for our entire lives, even into our future lives. The universe is a huge script with countless subscripts within it, and all the small ones serve the huge one. No small script can exceed a larger one. The Milky Way galaxy is a huge script, the solar system is a medium-sized one, Earth is a smaller one, every country is a smaller one still, every organization is a much smaller one, and so on. Strings within quarks, within atomic particles, within molecules have the smallest scripts. Adding the non-material world, 20 parallel worlds, and the 36-dimensional space, it is unimaginable and inexplicable for us to know how complex and how huge the master script is. The above is just a tiny bit of my superficial view based on man's bewilderment for your reference. To know more, you will need to work on statistics, analysis, induction, summing up from a large number of examples of human activities, both ancient and modern, at home and abroad. It will take a lot of effort for you to figure it out.
凡得利需付出代价。
All gains must be paid. Xiefeng. June 4, 2011. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. One ironclad rule of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy must always be equal. One ramification of this is that you must pay for of your gains. They must always balance each other and higher prices must be paid for greater rewards. For an equal amount of gems, diamonds usually demand higher prices than rubies and emeralds. Diamonds require the most money to buy. Obtaining more precious things requires you to pay higher prices. By carefully observing human society, it seems confusing and complicated on its surface, totally out of order. However, through careful observation, it can be concluded that what is gained always equals that which has been paid. The more one pays, the more they gain, and the more they gain, the more they must pay. There are no free lunches. Nothing in the universe can be achieved without a payment. What is lost at sunrise will be gained at sunset, and what is gained at sunrise will be lost at sunset. As one falls, another rises, rising here and setting there. When one gains money, something must be paid. It might be labor, reputation, peace, or even life. When one pays money, something must be gained. It might be comfort, safety, fame, status, physical beauty, or honor. It makes sense that a loss of money avoids other misfortune. Material payments do not always give you material rewards. They might be mental or spiritual. As such, mental or spiritual payments might gain you material rewards. If you pay something, then you will gain something for it, though it can be hard to understand what or when that will be. If you gain, you will pay something, but no final conclusion can be reached as to what or when that will be either, because it might involve health, safety, promotion, wealth, reputation, status, affection, or other life factors. In order to understand the rule that paying and gaining always balance out, that the ironclad law of the sum of positive and negative energy always equal each other, you must not consider only a short time period, but rather a whole life or even the karma of 3 incarnations to judge and draw a conclusion. Through the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, Allah warned us that if all of one's desires are met in this life, then none will remain for the afterlife. There is never any profit at the expense of others, whether parents, offspring, spouses, or lovers, and regardless of whether you are given something for free, find it on the road by yourself, your boss rewards your work, or you dig it out from deep under the ground on your own, as long as you have gained something, you must pay. Why do people suffer pain and hardships or meet with catastrophes? Because they have gained something. Why are people happy and joyous, and why do they obtain good opportunities and grace? Because they have paid something. What revelation can we get from this principle? Never profit from other people's expenses at any time, never fish in troubled waters, never profit from others' misfortunes, and take nothing for free, not even donations and contributions. No one should ever be under the delusion that they will get something from their husband or wife for free. You must meet all your needs, pay more and gain less. Once you pay, you are bound to gain. This goes without saying. Whenever you gain something, always remember that a loss is inevitable. You can escape it in the short run, but not forever. You might escape a blow in the mortal world, but you cannot escape punishment from Tao in heaven. To reap more valuable rewards, a higher price must be sown. To reach the kingdom of heaven, you must dedicate everything, your entire body and soul. As the guide of human life and life, I state these words here. You can inspect, test, and verify them, but time and results will tell whether or not they are correct.
人间八道
8 Ways Through the Mortal World. Xiefeng. June 21, 2010. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. Our universe consists of 20 parallel worlds within 36-dimensional space. Among these 20, Our mortal world is designated as the XY world and manifests itself as three-dimensional space. The 20 parallel worlds all have symmetry, as does all of 36-dimensional space. From the perspective of reincarnation and the evolution of life, there are high-level spaces such as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, and low-level space such as the inflamed layer, the frozen layer, and the netherworld. The mortal world is the midpoint at which they cross. It is a transfer station for the evolution and reincarnation of life between the higher-level spaces and the lower-level ones. This means that lives from low-level spaces advancing to high-level ones and those from high-level spaces falling to low-level ones must pass through this mortal world as a transfer station. The mortal world is a traffic hub just like the Zhengzhou railway station in China, where crowds come and go, back and forth, hustling and bustling each and every day, determinately and actively. It is easy to see that apart from those who work there, they all scatter quickly to their separate directions and transfer to other cars, buses, trains, and airplanes toward their individual destinations, running along their ways busily. In the mortal world, chaos arises with constant fighting and struggling. Each holds their own ambition, each has their own axe to grind, each administers in their own way, and each realizes their own wishes. As a temporary stage, each team performs its own show to the maximum, and as a temporary inn, passengers from different places stay briefly before parting company and going their separate ways. Each pursues their own prospects. To pursue one's prospect of reaching their destination, they must proceed in certain ways. Without a good way or by choosing a wrong one, they will never reach their destination. Were they to board the wrong vehicle, their wish would remain just a wish, and their destination would remain out of reach. To be an entrepreneur, one needs to take the way of the market. To do business and make money, they must take the way of circulation. And to be a doctor, they must take the way of medical science and skill. Airplanes must taxi down runways, ships have to float on waterways, trains should run on railway tracks, and cars need to remain on roads and streets. From the perspective of the evolution and reincarnation of life, humans in the mortal world must take one of the following 8 ways and pass on to its associated destination. The way of the greatest creator, one models themselves after nature with holographic order thinking, open-heartedness, flexibility, and tact. They will rise to the celestial islands continent. The way of gods, one worships gods quite distinct from each other, bellicose and domineering. They will advance to Azura heaven. The way of Buddha, one pursues non-form and refines their concept of no abode for the mind and returns to the nature of Tathagata. They will ascend to the Elysium world. The way of celestial beings, one takes skepticism, non-dogma, and freedom as their first priorities and cultivates magical powers as their core. They will climb to the celestial beings' world. The way of humans, one pursues fame and material wealth, attaches great importance to family love and emotions, and remains fond of organization and power. They will return to the mortal world to continue their samsara and return as another human. The way of animals, one takes food, clothing, shelter, transportation, growing up, aging, health, and avoiding death as their first priorities of life, with the acquisition of money as their core value. They will descend to the animal world. The way of ghosts, one neither abides by rules nor laws, but conjures, lurks, and sneaks around like a ghost, speaks one way, but thinks and acts another, and is fond of hiding and good at lying. They will drop into the hell world. The way of Satan, one is fond of dwelling upon spirits and deities, fortunes and disasters, being ambitious and arrogant, blasphemes the greatest creator, and insults the gods. In order to achieve their goals, they plunge lives into abysses of misery and destroy nature by hook or by crook. They will fall into the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Like Atrax, birds of a feather flock together. The way that one takes depends upon their kind of consciousness and their life structure. Divine punishments are slow but sure, is also the arrangement and program of Tao. All have their duties and accountabilities, which make each and every one of them vivid and exciting. Whether they know it or not, each person takes their way. Most are led along ignorantly and uncaringly, but a small number choose theirs clearly and plainly. You who have read this article should consider using it as a reference. If you discard what I wrote as groundless nonsense, then simply throw it away. You can even scold and criticize me, but if you feel that it has merit, then consider it as having value because you could benefit from it. Possess nothing yet have everything. Xie Feng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Possess nothing yet have everything. This is not a paradox, but a great secret with which to go toward a better life space. Jesus Christ taught us to lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. It is only by owning nothing on earth that you can enter the realm of the greatest creator. Shakyamuni Buddha taught us to develop a pure and clean mind which does not abide in anything, neither in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, nor dharma. We should have no notion of ego, personality, a being with a life, dharma, or non-dharma. Everything with form is unreal. All phenomena are dreams, illusions. In other words, owning nothing is the way to enter the Elysium world. The immortal Lao Tzu taught us to take no action, regard one's body as accidental, do not contend, value the world as itself. It gives them birth but does not own them, acts, helps, but does not appropriate them. He who acts, spoils. He who grasps, lets slip, accomplish but lay claim to no credit. All this is to say that we must not take credit for our positive actions. To put all this into one sentence, all the teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are to try to own nothing. Stupid? No. The teachings of gods, Buddha, and immortal are the Tao of life, the Tao of light, and the Tao for us to gain everything. How can possessing nothing lead to having everything? The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, taught us, to any that desires the tilth of hereafter, we give increase in his tilth, and to any that desires the tilth of this life, we grant somewhat thereof, but he has no share or lot in the hereafter. The Prophet's prediction was right. You have already had your share, and you will not have any share or lot in the hereafter. So just give and you will have more later. The less you possess now, the more you will have later. We have learned from the Taiji thinking that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. If you gain in some ways, you will lose in others. This is to maintain the law that positive and negative energy are always in balance. The more blessings you enjoy in this world, the fewer your blessings will be in the afterlife. So, if you want to enjoy a better afterlife, you will need to give more and possess less in this life. Follow the teachings of Buddha. Do more formless almsgiving because doing so will get you enormous and incredible blessings. We see people with lots of possessions, which is mainly because they have gained a lot merits in their previous lives. Many others are poor, mainly because they have done little or garnered few merits in their previous lives. Some people were born with silver spoons, yet many work hard all their lives, but can barely support their families. Evidently, if you want to get blessings in your afterlife, you should earn more merits in this life. If you want to be a celestial being in heaven in your afterlife, you need to possess as little as possible in this life. How can you possess nothing yet have everything? Firstly, think about this. Whatever we try to possess in this world will come to naught in the end. If we make efforts to possess, we are really running after illusions and bubbles. The more you possess, the more distress, troubles, crises, and disasters you will have. You will never rest peacefully, you will feel unsettled, you will literally rack your brain to keep your possessions, you will lie, contend, hurt others, hurt nature, and will cause others to envy, hate, covet, and rob. Your life quality will get farther and farther away from heaven and nearer to the animal world and hell. The more you possess, the farther away from heaven you will be. If you want to possess everything, you will eventually have nothing. Let us look at the birds flying and perching in the forest. What do they possess? They possess nothing, but they have the sunlight, forests, meadows, streams, bugs, and branches to perch upon. They lack nothing. The Gospel of Matthew reads, Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Jesus had nothing in his life, but now he has everything. Buddha had nothing after the Enlightenment, but now he has the Elysium world. The celestial beings in the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world possess nothing, but they lack of nothing. The super-celestial beings in the celestial islands continent possess nothing, but they have everything they could ever want. As long as people in the mortal world give more but possess nothing, they will be short of nothing. Why do people have so much anxiety and worries, and why do they compete and contend all day long? Because they want to possess. As we travel, we see that many attractions have been possessed by people. We need to buy tickets or we will be kept out of the show. The landscape of the earth and the sun and rain are the gifts of nature for all mankind. But now they are possessed by a small group of people and everyone else must bear their exploitation and blackmail. I built this road and planted this tree. If you want to pass by, then pay my toll and buy the privilege. How can anyone not worry and suffer anxiety in this gangster-ridden world? Water is a gift of nature bestowed to all life, but if we want to use water, we must pay for it. We are told that water needs to be purified and that costs money. But we should ask who polluted the water. The people who polluted the water should be responsible for its purification. Why should others bear the cost of purifying it? We are told that the water was in rivers and lakes, but now it comes directly to our sinks in our homes and that costs money. Yes, bringing water from rivers and lakes for our convenience does indeed cost, but that cost should be resolved by voluntary labor under government organization and the materials should be provided by the production plant. And it is said that if we do not charge for water, people will waste this resource. Yes, this could be a problem, but why would people want to waste for no reason? This is a mental and spiritual problem. Why not just solve them? This belongs to the country. This belongs to our company. This belongs to my family. This belongs to me. In these cases, the public resources will be seized. One day, the mountains, rivers, and the earth will be carved up, and even the air we breathe will be sold and taxed. Everyone wants to possess, but the result will be that everyone will suffer and be lacking in everything. It is only when no one possesses that everyone will have everything. First of all, without traditional families, 80% of social issues would be resolved. Secondly, without countries, 90% of our problems would be resolved. The remaining 10% will be problems of spirit and soul construction. Is this possible? Unlikely, of course, because this is the mortal world, not heaven. However, it is imperial for anyone who wants to go to and live in heaven. If you want to possess something, you will never reach heaven. The consciousness of possessing is our biggest obstacle preventing us from going to heaven. All those who want to go to heaven must clearly recognize this point and realize a consciousness of owning nothing and putting this consciousness into practice. The new oasis for life built by Life Changyuan serves this purpose. Those who enter the new oasis for life possess nothing, but they can get everything. To people who are not Changyuan celestials, this ideal sounds like the Arabian Nights. It is just a myth, a dream, a fantasy, and a delusion. But to Changyuan celestials, it is no longer an unattainable dream, but rather a clear reality. If you want to live a better life on earth and ultimately go to heaven, the only way out is to live according to Life Changyuan values. In this way, you will possess nothing yet have everything. Brains, minds, consciousnesses, and the great universe. Xie Feng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Brains are the bridges between consciousnesses, minds, and the great universe. The great universe that is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt is processed by brains into minds. Brains would die without the great universe. Brains can be activated by observing and experiencing the great universe, and they will become quicker and smarter thusly. That is why we have the saying, read 1,000 of books and travel 1,000 miles. Apart from interpreting sensations, the brain is also capable of thinking. The closer we look, the deeper we feel about the things and phenomena that we sense, the more developed our brains become, and the more powerful our minds become. Our minds are determined by the information and data provided to our brains which come from the great universe. That is to say, the great universe that a person experiences determines the person's mind, which is why there are wolf children and deer children, as well as the origin of the belief that the Bel-Esprits reside on green mountains with sparkling water while rogues live on barren hills with turbulent rivers, and the reason to keep the company of good people and you shall be counted among their numbers. From this, we can draw the conclusion that the environment creates human minds. Different environments create different life. The environments of animals bring up animals. The human environment brings up people. The environment of celestial beings brings up celestial beings. The environment of Buddha brings up Buddhas. This environment known as the Great Universe includes both the material world environment and the non-material world environment, the reality environment and the super-reality environment. The reality material environment is the Great Universe that we see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. The super-reality non-material world includes the Great Universe written in books, sent to computers and TV screens, dreamed by our subconscious minds, and imagined in our minds. Always remember that you can know the principles and ways to have a sublime life, but you must live in the corresponding environment of life level in order to achieve the life in which you desire to be. Those who are surrounded by animals and animals' environment are animals. Those who are surrounded by people and people's environment are people. Those who are surrounded by celestial beings and celestial's environment are celestial beings. Those who are surrounded by Buddha and Buddha's environment are Buddha. Those who are surrounded by gods and God's environment are gods. People who live with people in the human world for a long time cannot become celestial beings or attain Buddhahood. If one wants to go there, they must live in environments that possess those attributes. Live in their worlds. The new oasis for life created by Life Achanuan is the environment of celestial beings where celestial beings live. So, if you want to become a celestial being, you must live in the new oasis for life. A brain cannot exist independently, but a mind can. A brain is restrained by the material world, but a mind is not. A brain is material, but a mind is non-material. People carry the genes of consciousness information from many previous lives. The good and bad of the root of wisdom rely on the consciousness of their genetic information. That is the origin of the so-called genius. Generally speaking, people who have never lived in heaven in any of their previous lives cannot become a celestial being or attain Buddhahood, and will have to go through the same difficulty as someone who wants to become a singer but has a rough, untuned voice. Genius is not cultivated, but is innate. The so-called innate means that they have acquired certain qualities throughout many previous lives. The so-called life is the soul, and the so-called soul is consciousness. Consciousness determines the nature and level of life. Therefore, a brain is a channel for information from the great universe to enter a mind. A brain is dead without the great universe and cannot survive without it. Minds are independent and can exist even without the great universe. The great universe can be created by a mind. The great universe plays a decisive role in the formation of minds. In order to attain the mind of a celestial being or to attain Buddhahood, one must associate with celestial beings and Buddhas and live in their world.
我阻挡住了前往天堂的道路。
It is ego that blocks our way to heaven. Xie Feng. March 4, 2013. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. If everything works according to the greatest creator's will, so let everything return to nature and follow the law of nature as the way of permaculture agriculture. Then the wind and rain will come in their time and everything will harmonize with each other. People will lead carefree lives and enjoy their years of life. It will be realized that we are integral parts of nature and everyone will enjoy peace and health. Harm and pain are created by people with egos. One is bound to be selfish with an ego, and selfishness is bound to bring harm and pain to others, society, and nature. In return, that harm and pain will reflect back upon themselves. This will lead to vicious cycles and eventual destruction. The teachings of gods are that by abandoning the ego, one will receive life and peace. The teachings of the Buddha are that by being free of ego, form, and worry, one can enter the Elysium world. The teachings of celestial beings are to take things as they are, associate with others by following predestined relationships, act in accordance with nature, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Follow your own nature and be unrestrained. Follow your destiny and be carefree. The teachings of saints are to lack the hearts of egos, but to take the hearts of the world as their own. The core of their teachings is but one: be free from ego. Being free from ego, one can enjoy the pleasures of life and enter paradise, the pure land, the fairyland. Facts speak louder than words. People living in the new oasis for life are more joyous, freer, and happier than those living in traditional marriages and families. Why? Because people living in the new oasis for life are freer from ego and more selfless than those living in traditional marriages and families. In the new oasis for life, the freer you are from ego, the more happiness, freedom, and joy you can have. The more that you serve your ego, the less happy, free, and joyous you will be. Facts have proven that in order to lead a happy and nice life and enter paradise step by step, the freer one is from their ego, the better they are. So how can we free ourselves from our egos? Live according to the will of the greatest creator. That is the law of nature. Live by following the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, and the immortal Lao Tzu. Abandon your ego but integrate into the collective and into nature. Desire nothing but take things as they are. Drink as you thirst, eat as you hunger, and sleep as you tire. Associate with everyone by following predestined relationships and acting in accordance with your nature. Own nothing or no one until you have nothing at all. Neither interfere with others, nor try to control or change them. Be yourself with your original nature. Neither analyze and judge right and wrong, nor judge others' advantages, disadvantages, and qualities. Seek out those who own nothing with selfless consideration and always remain humble and look like both saints and servants because it is correct to listen to them. Ego is the precipice and the stumbling block that prevents people from reaching heaven. Ego is the root of all trouble, pain, and misfortune. Ego will inevitably lead a person to a lower space of life. Only selflessness helps one realize their self. Only freedom from ego helps one achieve their self. These two messages encompass all the secrets of brilliant lives and the principles of life sublimation. Think of them carefully and practice them bravely.
超弦理论的盲点
A blind spot in superstring theory. Xiafeng. October 24, 2005. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. If we consider the quantum field theory as one leg in a pair of pants and the general relativity theory as the other leg, then the superstring theory would be the waist part trying to connect them. Einstein's general relativity mainly discusses gravity and holds that it does not exist but is the result of the curvature of space. It assumes that space itself is smooth and flat, but when celestial bodies of great mass such as the sun appear, they cause it to curve inward. It is like pressing hard on a girl's round and smooth face with an index finger which breaks the smoothness and forms an indentation. The geometric deformation of space gives rise to apparent gravity which defines it from a macro perspective. With regard to a person or a stone, its mass is too small to deform space any noticeable amount. Thus, microscopic matter has almost no apparent gravity. The problem with microcosmic matter is that its space is not smooth and flat, but is filled with countless, flying particles which are unable to curve space to produce gravity as huge masses do. The movements of microparticles have nothing to do with gravity. They are the results of electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. Quantum mechanics appeared when general relativity failed to explain the source of these three forces. Quantum mechanics studies fundamental particles at the microcosmic level. Whether large celestial bodies or grains of sand on the beach, all matter is made of hundreds of types of fundamental particles with masses close to zero but whose trajectories change unpredictably with no rules to follow but are always in motion. Motion is not caused by gravity, but by the three aforementioned forces of nature being converted from the particles. Electromagnetism is converted from photons, the strong force is converted from gluons, and the weak force is converted from bosons. However, the conversion of particles cannot generate gravity. Therefore, the quantum mechanics does not explain gravity. The macroscopic world and the microscopic world are unified integral, but general relativity theory, which can explain motion at the macroscopic level, and quantum mechanics, which can explain it at the microscopic level, are not fully compatible. An overall description of the universe can only be had by combining these two seemingly contradictory theories, and this mosaic theory is called the superstring theory. This superstring theory believes that matter is made of molecules, molecules are made of atoms, atoms are made of electron shells and nuclei, and the nuclei consist of protons and neutrons, which are made of quarks. What are quarks and electrons made of? Scientists believe that both are fundamental point particles which have no internal structures and cannot be divided any further. Superstring argues that these particles do not really exist, but are only strings in motion in space, and a variety of different types of particles are formed by these strings vibrating differently. All interactions between matter and energy can be explained by combining and separating strings, but strings do not move in normal three-dimensional space. Rather, they move in a high dimension of space which is beyond our imagination. Our traditional ideas about space are wrong because space has more than 3 dimensions, maybe 10 or even 26 of them. If this sounds confusing, consider the following scenario. An ant crawls into a shallow pit. It climbs out and goes further until it falls into a deeper pit. It climbs out and continues to go until after some time, it drops into a sand pit. It climbs out, but eventually lands inside a mud pit. These 4 pits are totally irrelevant to the ant which simply comes across them by chance. Living on a 2-dimensional plane, it cannot see the interrelation of the 4 pits, let alone know that they may be related integrally. What is the reality of the situation? These 4 pits are footprints left by an elephant as it ate. 1 foot stood on hard ground, another stood on soft ground, a third in sand, and the 4th was in a pond of rainwater. So there are the shallow pit, the deep pit, the sand pit, and the mud pit. That is to say, the seemingly unrelated pits are actually integral parts of a whole. It is only when we think beyond our 2-dimensional plane to include 3-dimensional height, 4-dimensional time, 5-dimensional retention information, and 6-dimensional space movement and so on, that we begin to understand how these unrelated pits are integral parts left by a single elephant. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force are our 4 pits, but they are actually parts of a whole. Superstring theory was conceived to explain their integration. Superstring is the most promising theory to unify our understanding of fundamental particles with the interactions of the 4 forces. Superstring holds that strings are the most basic units of matter and that all fundamental particles such as electrons, photons, neutrinos, and quarks are different vibrational states of energy strings. Superstring combines the 2 major basic theories of the 20th century, general relativity and quantum mechanics, for the first time into a mathematically self-consistent framework. Superstring has the potential to solve long-standing problems that have troubled physicists, including the nature of black holes and the origin of the universe. If experimentation confirms it, then our understanding of the structure of matter, space, and time would change fundamentally. The prospect is tempting and theoreticians are struggling with it, but it seems ridiculous and childish to me because of some major blind spots. They are: how have these strings come into being? How do they move? Could they represent the origin of the universe? How can a unified field theory of the universe be established when the origin of the universe is still unknown? Only Life-Chanuan can answer these questions.
寻找真正的自己。一、
Looking for your true self, I. Xiefeng. August 5, 2012. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Who are you and how much of your life do you control? All of it, some of it, any of it. Needless to say, no one can control their lives absolutely. If a person can control just 1/10 of their habits, hobbies, behaviors, and words, then they are quite extraordinary. 18 things are beyond people's control, including their height, appearance, race, ethnicity, environment, era, birth date, birthplace, parents, death, and so on. All these things are predestined and no one can do anything about any of them. But what about our habits, usual practices, hobbies, behaviors, words, and so on? Are these self-controllable? Let us look at 2 specific examples. As reported in the world of unsolved secrets, a pair of paternal twin brothers were separated from an early age in Ohio, the United States. They meet again after being separated for 39 years only to discover that they both had received legal education and were keen on mechanical drawing and carpentry. Even more surprisingly, their ex-wives had the same first names, as did their sons and even their second wives. In addition, both of them vacationed often in St. Petersburg, Florida. A pair of paternal twin sisters had been separated since childhood for more than 10 years. They agreed to meet at a train station and one sister temporarily decided to get a hairdo. When they met, she was taken aback, because her sister had also gotten a hairdo. They also wore identical jackets, skirts, shoes, and carried identical purses. Both of them were utterly amazed. We can draw conclusions about these. Both pairs of siblings had almost identical habits, hobbies, behavior, and appearances, though they had been separated from early ages. When they did not know that they had twins, everything about them was taken as individual preferences. They had all believed that they controlled their own habits and hobbies until they found that their twins were almost exactly the same. Everything that they believed to be self-determined turned out to be from invisible consciousnesses rather than their own wills. The habits, hobbies, even the names of their wives and sons had been prearranged and predestined. These cases represent identical twins, but what about the rest of us? What habits and hobbies do we choose for ourselves? The answer is none. Our habits, practices, hobbies, interests, behaviors, and choice of words are not our own decisions, but controlled by mysterious consciousnesses. What are these mysterious consciousnesses? They are our true selves. The selves that we believe we are not our true selves but false ones, and our true ones are the mysterious consciousnesses that control our hidden ones behind our appearances. Case in point, a woman's husband was killed in a war. When the bad news came, she grieved and wailed sadly, but her true self cried with joy, "Finally, I'm free." 9 people out of 10 are pretentious. So, most of the people we face are false, do not talk sincerely, and are hypocrites. We often face cognitive dissonance when our true selves conflict with our false ones. Our false selves tend to be pretentious, to cater to the times, the public, and others. Our true selves have nothing to do with them, and that is Tathagata. How does one find their true self? Continue to looking for your true self. 2.
寻找真正的自己。2.
Looking for your true self. 2. Xiefeng. August 5, 2012. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. In our real lives, we all play roles defined by our plots, such as government civil servants, judges, police officers, businessmen, teachers, thieves, hooligans, and so on. These are not our true selves, but unconscious roles that have been arranged precisely for everyone according to the conscious needs of the plot. So if someone were to ask who you are and you answered that you are a mechanical engineer, that would be wrong. Look into a mirror. Do you see yourself? The image that you see has to be wrong because all forms are seen inaccurately. You cannot see yourself by the image of your form. The one in the mirror is not your true self at all, but only a false representation. Compare your images at the ages of 8, 18, and 48. They are completely different because they are all illusions. None of them are really you. Look at the people around you. Some are giving impassioned speeches, holding guns tightly, making films, singing and dancing, handling official business, fighting and quarreling, catching thieves, selling goods, and some are preaching. All are just acting and role-playing. None are their true selves, but most are biological robots who are running according to their programmed procedures. Your true self is completely free. When you feel unfree, you are not your real self. You have to go to work on time to make a living, do business to make money, be a police officer to catch bad guys, or do your job according to your superiors. Then, you have to maintain the support of your parents, buy a house and a car, get married, and have children. When you make choices, you have to consider the wishes of your family and others around you, and you have to remember traditional ethics and customs. Ultimately, you can never be your true self. You have to consider the expectations, demands, and constraints of the people around you, as well as the cultural values and customs that society adheres to. You want to go one way, but you have to choose another. If you do not, then you will have to bear guilt and pain within your heart, be angry, assume a feigned manner, pose as a person with high morals, and say words and do things against your will, or worse, you will face immediate problems with your food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, illness, and death. So, you would not have been living out your true self, but only playing the role that you have to play according to the program which has been designed as a social plot. You want to be free in your heart, but you must live within constraints because you are trapped within the program. Put into the plot. Cattle are driven into sheds, pigs are driven into pens, and people are driven into circles of other people. Those who are supposed to dig holes, dig them, supposed to fly, fly, supposed to be herbivores, graze on grass, supposed to be carnivores, eat meat. All are hard-pressed to escape from the bonds of the three realms, but can only be bound by the five elements. The script requires that 99% of the people do not to know the truth, because if it were widely known, then the play could not be performed. A news story reported of a migrant whose wife had affairs at home when he was at work and eventually gave birth to a child. He did not know the truth and raised the child into adulthood, but as the child grew, he developed less and less like him, so he had a paternity test run. The DNA test result proved that the child was not his and threw him into a whirlpool of pain and trouble. Once the truth was known, a comedy became a tragedy. King Oedipus in ancient Greek mythology and legend married his own mother unknowingly and innocently, and took her as his queen. Had he not learned the truth, he might have enjoyed his warm family, but when they learned it, the queen killed herself out of shame while Oedipus blinded himself and went into exile. Once a truth is learned, its consequences can be terrible. What would you do if you learned that you had protected something that you should have destroyed, or that you had tried to ruin something that you should have been grateful for? It would be useless at that moment, even if the pain and repentance broke your heart. A pig could not live for even a day if it knew that the reason it was bred in captivity was to be slaughtered for food. If 99% of humans knew who they really were, then our whole social system and order would collapse and the human world as we know it would no longer exist. How do we find our true selves? Continue to looking for your true self. 3.
寻找真正的自己。3.
Looking for your true self. 3. Xiefeng. August 6, 2012. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. Have you watched movies or TV shows? Actors call other actors mom and dad. Are they really their parents? Of course not. They were acting, and none of the roles that they played were real. They were disguised. Someone is crying. Are they really sad? Someone is killed. Is the actor really dead? No and no. They were fake and everyone is fine. Everything in the play is false and nothing is real. Otherwise, it would be unimaginable how many actors would die on a battlefield of a war scene. None are actually dead because they are only pretending to be so. Acting in movies and TV shows is acting, But how many people are acting in real life? People pledge their love to husbands and wives for whom they no longer have feelings. They defer to their bosses with smiles though they hate them inwardly. And they scold the United States viciously but rack their brains to send their children there. People lust after men or women in their sleepless nights but then act as guards of public morality and condemn others for acting on their lust. So who is not acting, who are not actors, and who live out their true selves? The truth is that everyone acts. Why are you acting? Because survival forces you to do so. Acting is a survival skill for living. But since it is all just acting, nothing is real, everything is false. Therefore, everything that we see in human society is false. Nothing is real because everyone is acting. You might say, it is not all acting. Some of it is real. My mother gave birth to me. That was not acting, it was real. And I will ask, your mother gave birth to you? Are you sure that she is your mother? The son had been the father and the daughter had been the mother. So who is your mother? You do not even know who you are. So how can you know that it was your mother who gave birth to you? Besides, how many mothers have you had? How many times have you been born since the beginning of time? Has the same woman given birth to you each time, and has no other women ever given birth to you? Maybe the woman who gave birth to you 500 years ago is your daughter in this life. Can you say that your daughter has never given birth to you? Therefore, it is hard to say who has ever given birth to you, your mother, your daughter, or your lover. Of course, if we limit everything to within this life only, then of course it is your current mother who gave birth to you. When someone pointed at Mary and said to Jesus Christ, "Thy mother and thy brother seek for thee," Jesus answered, "Who is my mother or my brother? Whoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother, my sister, and my mother." Jesus Christ was real, he was not acting, he was living out his true self. Where is your true self? As long as you want to remain a person, you will never find it or know who you really are. That is, if all your activities are centered around survival, catering to others, your society, your times, and traditional values, and if you still desire money, power, reputation, and sexual satisfaction in your mind and still want to be outstanding, to glorify and illuminate your family name, or to win glory for your homeland, as long as your mind abides somewhere or is tied by someone or something, and as long as you still have desire, demand, hatred, jealousy, resentment, fear, worry, and anxiety from within, then you will never find it either. So, how is the true self to be found? Continue to looking for your true self. 4.
寻找真正的自己。4.
Looking for your true self. 4. Xiafeng. August 9th, 2012. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The universe is the big stage for life, it exists for life, it is full of life, and it is full of vigor and vitality. The levels of life are in various poses and have different expressions from low levels to high ones and both visible ones and invisible ones. All gradually unfold and perform on the big life stage of the universe which constitutes the magnificent and colorful great universe. From an individual life to groups of many lives, all things are designed and arranged in strict proportions. Take people for example, everything in our bodies is designed in proportion, such as our numbers and sizes of eyes, bones, hands, and feet. The roles and lifespans of each life and each group of lives are designed and arranged based on proportions and needs. At the same time, each life group exists in a certain program and belongs to its own species. All life survives in certain programs and will have to enter other ones after they leave their current ones. For instance, the animal world is a life program, human society is another, and the celestial world is still another. When people depart from the human program, they will enter and run in the program of either the animal world or the celestial world. As long as one's role is fixed, as long as they run in a certain program, then none of their life is their true self because everything has been determined by the plot of a script. It is like shooting a TV series. Each actor must play a certain role according to the script plot. Even if you have some wiggle room, you will still have to follow the general script. The true self is completely free and is not subject to any outside control. If everything is done based on outside requirements rather than personal free will and is constrained by certain outside powers, then they are not the lives of true selves. In the universe, there is no total freedom except for that of the greatest creator. No life can enjoy total freedom. There are different degrees of freedom. The greater the degree of freedom is, the easier it is to find one's true self and live out their true self, and vice versa. Let us consider a pig and a human. Pigs have less freedom than humans and are subject to the restrictions and controls of humans. So pigs cannot live out their free wills. They live for humans and thus can never find their true selves. Humans have more freedom than pigs, so compared to pigs, humans can live out much more of themselves. Actually, humans in general who live in marriages with families have less freedom than those who live in the new oasis for life. The former live passively while the later are free from the shackles of marriage and family programs and free from many of the constraints of the 36-8 diagram arrays of life. Thus, they have more freedom and can live out more of their true selves. Lower life levels have less freedom and higher life levels have more freedom. For instance, each of the plant world, the animal world, the mortal world, and the celestial beings world have more freedom than the ones before them. It can be said that the worlds closest to hell have the least freedom, but those closest to heaven have the most. Therefore, one has to strive for the higher levels of life space. The highest level is heaven, and that is where true selves are. The more freedom there is, the easier it is to find one's true self. The less freedom, the less true self. In the entire universe from the material world to the non-material world, the most real place to find one's true life self is on the Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world, because it is the place where life is free from all programs, is no longer playing a scenario role, and everything is self-decided. There is only the self. The designer, the arranger, the director, and the screenwriter are all the self. We can thus arrive at the conclusion that one can only find their true self in heaven. Pigs cannot find their true selves as pigs, and similarly humans cannot find their true selves as humans. The only absolute way to find one's true self is to become a super celestial being. How does one become a super celestial being? By following Tao and bringing oneness to Tao and to the consciousness of the greatest creator to achieve self-consistency. This is how we find our true selves.
广义相对论的启示
Revelations from General Relativity. Xiefeng. September 1st, 2005. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The attraction between the Earth and the tested body has gravitational mass. Exerting force to a body, the body will produce reaction force. It resists acceleration, so the body has inertial mass. The gravitational mass and inertial mass of the same body tested in a variety of ways arrive at such a conclusion. Gravitational mass equals inertial mass. Isaac Newton believed that the measurement result of equivalence of the mass is only coincidental, but Albert Einstein found that such equivalence exists in a glorious channel that replaced Newton's theory. Galileo Galilei noted the phenomenon in his experiment that the acceleration of a body in a gravitational field is independent of its mass. In gravitational fields, bodies of different masses fall at identical speeds. The acceleration of two bodies toward each other in the same gravitational field are always equal. For example, if we were to remove all air resistance, then anything falling toward the Earth would accelerate at a constant rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. In order to explain the principle of the equivalence of gravitational mass and inertial mass, Einstein came up with his famous third hypothesis, general relativity. If an inertial system is equal to a gravitational system which is evenly accelerated, then we can introduce a uniform gravitational field into it and assume that the inertial system, will remain static. On the basis of this third hypothesis, Einstein deduced his fourth one, which is also the same in all systems. Any observer inside an accelerated running elevator will perceive a spot of light that is shining through its window at a constant speed along a level line into the elevator that lands on its opposite wall differently than an observer who is outside the same elevator. Einstein's fourth hypothesis confirms that observers inside the elevator err by neglecting the mass of energy because it is very small. However, slight changes of movements of energy can be observed near very strong gravitational fields. It has been shown that light which is close enough to the sun will be drawn toward it due to its huge mass. Thus, Einstein reached a surprising conclusion. The world in which we live is not Euclidean. That is, circles in Euclidean geometry are no longer round, parallel lines intersect or diverge, and the sums of the angles of triangles are not 180 degrees. This strange conclusion is called the geometry of the universe. 1 plus 1 cannot always equal 2. What is the speed of a photon plus the speed of a moving train? Can there be such a speed in reality? Place one atomic clock atop a mountain and another one of similar performance at the foot of the same mountain, and their measured times will gradually diverge. The one on the top of mountain will run slightly more slowly than the one at its foot. Why? Because gravitational fields alter time and space. What are the revelations of general relativity to us? Any conclusion about macrospace and time from the perception of microspace and time might be inaccurate. Any conclusion drawn from within a system can be inconsistent with one drawn from outside of it. There are natural laws in the universe which apply everywhere and always. There are differences between abstract theories and reality. Space and time are not absolute. What kind of worldview and outlook on life can we draw from these revelations? We may have been living mistakenly. That which is in our consciousness is not truth, but distorted reality. Absolutely correct doctrines, theories, and ideas from within any religious, social, or governmental system may ultimately be disproved. There are irrefutable universal laws which apply to all space and time. These laws are collectively the will of the greatest creator, Tao. No theory is absolute and eternally true. We should never believe blindly in the classical theories, but should think from the perspective of holographic order. Returning from old age to youth and advancing from youth to old age, as well as living in different spaces, is possible. No one has yet discovered all the secrets of the universe. On the contrary, we are only beginning to explore its wonders, and what we do know only scratches the surface. We are still ignorant of the meanings of time and space, so any strong opposition to new ideas, innovative approaches, and new philosophical perspectives is reactionary to the universe and to life and is a suppression of human nature. Only the concept of unifying all religions into a single uniform one is relatively correct thinking. Only the way of the greatest creator is the universal natural law to bring salvation from human suffering at the macro level.
前往天堂的24个硬性指标。
24 mandatory indices to heaven. Xiafeng. November 18, 2018. Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. The universe is not only rational, but also mathematical. Whatever does not conform to scientific principles is a fantasy, a dream. Assumptions do not confirm scientific principles because only facts and tested theories are their cores. Everything that really exists conforms to scientific principles. Everything that can be deduced logically also conforms to scientific principles, even if we cannot see that they exist. Does heaven exist or does it not? This is quite simple, for as long as we can see the reality of heaven or as long as its existence can be deduced logically, then we can conclude that it does. No one's description of heaven is convincing unless many people have witnessed it for themselves and can confirm it repeatedly. The 1,000-year world of heaven that I have described would not be convincing if it were only my personal description, but when I copied it onto the earth and hundreds of people not only saw it but also lived in it and experienced it, then it became time to accept its existence. Though seemed humble, it is the 1,000-year world of heaven's earthly manifestation. If you still cannot recognize these facts in front of you, then you are only proving that you are disregarding them and preferring to stay with your comfortable dreams and illusions. Everyone knows about the plane rectangular coordinate system, which has 4 quadrants and each quadrant expresses a different nature. For example, if the first quadrant is all positive and the third one is all negative, then the first quadrant can represent heaven and the third one can represent hell. The space in which life exists is not a plane rectangular coordinate system though, but a 3-dimensional cubic coordinate system with volume, also called a complex rectangular coordinate system because it has horizontal spacetime, and this horizontal spacetime is invisible to people within three-dimensional space. Although people cannot see it, it can still be deduced in a scientific way. That is, by the imaginary number axis, which is perpendicular to both our eyes and also to the x and y axes through the plane rectangular coordinate system origin. Think of it like a chopstick that is perpendicular to our eyes, and we can only see a point, though a point is clearly not its true nature. Because a virtual axis is added to the plane Cartesian coordinate system, that plane Cartesian coordinate system has become a three-dimensional one in which there are 20 quadrants. We human beings live in only one of them. The other 19 are spaces that humans do not experience or understand thoroughly as of yet, and heaven is among them. This is the scientific principle of heaven. Since heaven exists and life is so beautiful there, then of course we are all eager to go there. The question is, how do we get there? No matter who you are, a religious follower or an atheist, rich or poor, an official or a common citizen, a university professor or an illiterate, you can go to heaven by reaching its standard, but if you are substandard, then you will have to recycle through the samsara of the mortal world, the animal world, or even the livestock world. Here are the 24 mandatory requirement indices. Freedom from debts. Accumulation of merits and virtues. Freedom from worldly ties. Freedom from troubles and annoyances. Freedom from anxiety. Freedom from grief. Freedom from worries. Freedom from fears. Possession of nothing. Having a carefree mind. Neither complaining nor resenting. Distance from anger and loss of temper. Lack of envy for others. Lack of negativity and pessimism. Never comparing oneself to others. Never regarding oneself as correct. Never arguing with or contending with others. Keeping a peaceful and joyous mind. Having a fondness for playing. Having no special relationship with anyone. Sharing everything with others. Having upbringing, self-cultivation, and self-restraint. Lacking a mind but showing a nature. Freedom from ego. No matter who you are, as long as you meet these 24 requirements listed above, then you have reached the standard and you will undoubtedly go to heaven. There is no need for ascetic practices, meditation, praying in churches and temples, understanding the classics, taking someone as your master, burning joss sticks, or even kowtowing and worshipping. On the other hand, if you do not meet the standards, even if you have read all the classics wholeheartedly, have self-cultivated and self-improved for thousands of years, are wealthy in knowledge, are a supermaster, have been preaching all your life and have thousands of followers, are eloquent enough to fully understand the classics, and no matter how much you have contributed to the world, then please accept my apology because you are not and will not be heaven-bound. It is easy to see that heaven is an ideal society, but why is it so ideal? The reason is that every life can enjoy its pleasure fully. If one who was unable to meet the standard were to enter heaven, then how could the others be guaranteed the freedom to enjoy their pleasure of life fully? That would be impossible. Heaven does exist and the road to it is clear. Go there or do not. The decision is yours.
一团有关性的迷雾。
A cloud of fog about nature. Xiafeng. November 18, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. The universe is a stage for nature, and everything and all phenomena are nature's dances. The true essence of Buddhism is, an enlightened heart is perceptive to nature, perceptive to Buddha. The main theme of the Bloodstream sermon by Master Bodhidharma was that nature, same word as sex in Chinese, is Buddha and Buddha is nature. Without the perception of nature, all teachings of Dharma are demonic talks, and all practicing of magic is demonic conduct. The sixth patriarch, Huineng's The Platform Sutra, says, "Who would know that our nature, essence of mind, Tathagata suchness, is intrinsically pure? Who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically free from becoming or annihilating? Who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically self-sufficient? Who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically free from change? Who would have thought that all things are manifestations of our nature? From this point of view, we should follow our nature. If so, willfulness is right, and the wayward person is dictated by willful nature, but reality tells us that willful people cannot become immortal or Buddha. To follow one's nature, but not be willful, is a contradiction. This is the fog about nature. Let's take Jiaoyi, Lixin, and Tianxin as examples to analyze willfulness. Jiaoyi is weak-willed, Lixin is medium-willed, and Tianxin is strong-willed. Weak-willed people have their own cognition and ideas about everything, and they always include contradictions and conflicts with Tao. They always want things to develop according to their own wishes, but because they have awe in their hearts, they are still willing to yield even when they are unhappy. Therefore, they can still walk on the way of Tao. Medium-willed people know that they are wrong, but they have strong self-esteem and easily drift between Tao and the mortal trail. If their self-esteem is well protected, they can merge into Tao. If their self-esteem is damaged, they will deviate from the Tao and move toward the trail. Strong-willed people are desperate to act according to their own wishes. Although they might know that they are wrong, their emotions exceed their rationality and they are unwilling to comply with Tao, let alone succumb to it. Wayward people have generally been spoiled since they were young and have experienced too little frustration in their lives. How does one escape from this nature fog? All speech and behaviors are caused by the trends of nature, and nature is the strongest driving force. Let us observe everything in nature: the loftiness and erecting of mountains, the fickleness and flowing of water, the birth and growth of plants in spring and summer, the fighting and killing of animals, and the fighting and robbing in the human world. All are the deductions of nature. From this point of view, following one's nature and willfulness are both not only problematic, but also dangerous, just like wolves, insects, tigers, and leopards following their natures, and kudo, vine, vitex, and thorns that are willful. From this, the sixth patriarch Huineng's, who would know that our nature, essence of mind, Tathagata suchness, is intrinsically pure, who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically free from becoming or annihilating, who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically self-sufficient, who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically free from change, who would have thought that all things are the manifestation of our nature, are also problematic. The self-nature is not pure. It has birth and annihilation, and it cannot produce everything. Follow one's nature. But what kind of nature? The nature of a devil or that of Buddha? The nature of beasts or that of humanity? Willful, but to follow what will? To follow the will of nature or to follow that of self? To follow the collective commonality or individual's personality? If you want to become a cat, then you must catch mice when you see them, otherwise you will not be a cat. If you want to become an immortal, then you must follow the immortal nature strictly, or you cannot become one. A cat is not a cat if it is compassionate when it sees a mouse. An immortal is no longer an immortal if his or her heart moans and laments when he or she sees marriages and funerals or weeping and crying in the mortal world. In order to become a Buddha, one needs to perceive nature, but must not follow one's nature and be willful. If you want to go to heaven, then you also need to perceive nature, but you must not follow human nature and be obsessed with the debauchery of mortal life and the passing clouds in the physical world.
我与魔王的又一次对话。
Another conversation with the king devil, Satan. Deiform Celestial. December 11th, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. It was 3 o'clock on the morning of December 11th, 2019 when I passed through a space-time tunnel and entered the palace of the King Devil. I saw how brightly it was lit and that it was radiating a brilliant illumination. Splendid and magnificent, grand yet solemn, and the guards in front of the door were all handsome, spirited, brave, and mighty. In the palace, a guard stood every 3 steps and a sentry every 5 steps. Handsome men and beautiful women walked in and out and everything was in order. When I came to the gate of the palace, One of those enchanting women came to greet me and told me that the king knew I was coming and was waiting for me in the hall. After passing through many corridors, we finally entered his hall as I then gazed upon a jade-red throne at the top of several dozen steps. It was inlaid with countless gems that were crystal clear while radiating colorful and dazzling lights. On the throne sat a beautiful, peerless man with an imposing appearance. Handsome, natural, and divine. 16 women stood beside him, and they were all extremely beautiful, sexy, charming, and glamorous. The ground and the walls were all made of pure gold, magnificent and impeccable. The king devil stood and looked down upon me from a high place and asked, "How are you, Deiform Celestial? Have you come here to surrender to me, or to steal my magic?" I stood below, looking up at him with a smile, and replied, "I am surely here to find fault with you." The king devil laughed. "You tiny celestial dare to find fault with me. It is very courageous of you. Is there a problem?" I replied cautiously, "Most worthy of gods who penetrates everything, how could I be qualified to find fault with you? I would not dare even if I had 100,000 times my courage. It is just that I missed you, so I just decided to drop by and ask for a cup of tea." "Lies!" The king devil feigned anger and turned his head with a growl. Then he smiled and tried to persuade me, "Deiform Celestial, why not come here to enjoy my glory and wealth and forget about your tireless task of reaping ripe crops? Even if you could go to the Celestial Islands in the future, how could it ever be as glorious as my palace?" Rather than answering him directly, I decided that this would be a good time to answer a question with a question. "Most worthy of gods, you have neither thieves nor robbers here, so why do you keep such tight security at your door? A guard at every third step and a sentry at every fifth. They are so majestic. They show how powerful I am, and I just like having them," the king devil replied. "But there are no blue skies or white clouds here, nor trees, flowers, or grass. It is all jewels. I still think that the celestial world is better," I continued. The king devil replied leisurely, "It seems that you have not escaped from your mortal world. What do you think of my women here? The most beautiful, enchanting, and sexy women anywhere. This is the Western vision of paradise. Remember the Garden of Eden? It was created by me. The blue skies, white clouds, green mountains, blue water, wildflowers, and countless rare and exotic fruits. But Adam and Eve could not enjoy its blessings. Did humans not ruin it?" I was a little puzzled and asked a little confused, "Is the God in the Bible really you?" The king devil then asked, "The whole world is under my rule. Other than me, are there any other gods?" "Then the God that all mankind has worshipped for thousands of years is you? Are you not afraid that the greatest creator will punish you?" "The greatest creator will never punish me because it is my dedicated burden to maintain the dynamic balance of life in the universe. In the human world and in hell, I have the right to do whatever I want. Only Jesus and you, Deiform Celestial, keep ruining my plans. Jesus has been punished and driven away by me, and you will have no better luck. So, one of my eyes is blind. Is this your punishment for me? I like your lecherous character, so I just punished you slightly. Maybe I will blind your other eye. Do you believe me?" "I surely believe you, but most worthy of gods, I also have my mission, and I cannot help myself. Besides, I only take 1 or 2% of human lives away, or as few as 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in 10,000, and I am not going against you. You will not be cruel to me, will you?" The king devil said with a serious face, "Do not pretend to be pitiful here. Do not wish for me to be compassionate. Justice has long arms, so do not dream of escaping from my net of justice. I will chase you and all of your Chanyuan Celestials and exhaust them, and you will all continue to reincarnate obediently." I was a little bit depressed and complained, "Most worthy of gods, is it your rhythm that you will kill everyone?" "Nonsense," the king devil said a bit angrily. "When have I killed anyone? I have never hurt a fly." The situation and results of every life are for their own sake, and they cannot blame me for anything. In that case, can I still have hope and opportunity to take some people to heaven, can I? I asked innocently. While the priest climbs a foot, I climb 10. Whether you can pick them up depends on the depth of your spiritual character, the king devil answered. Do you mean that you will no longer set up barriers to me? I asked. You're being delusional. Not only will I continue setting up obstacles to block you, but I will also do my best to stop you, the king devil said firmly. How will you stop me? I asked. The king devil told me this in detail. Shakyamuni once wanted to take many people away, and Lao Tzu used to plan secretly to take many others away, but most of them were stopped by me. Only a few dozen managed to escape. If you want to take some, it will not be more than 200 or 300. My ways of preventing them are diverse, strange, and unpredictable. People are slaves to money, so I will stop over 80% of them with that. Then another 5% can be stopped with the offer of power. Then reputation, status, beauty, affection, and love will stop another 7% to 8%. Then I will use poverty, hunger, war, illness, fear, death, and so on to stop 7% to 8% of them. Finally, the Psychedelic Academy will make your remaining members drunk on gong, magic arts, and powerful spells. That will stop most of the remaining ones. If necessary, I will make a few godlings appear in the world to show supernatural powers and magical arts to people in order to confuse those who have chosen you. Do the math, how many are left for you to take away? These are just my open methods. I also have countless secret tricks. What are those secret tricks? You, most worthy of gods, could you tell me a few? I begged sincerely. De form celestial. You want me to reveal my mysteries by negligence without knowing them? You underestimate me too much. Do not play on your cleverness. Small tricks in front of me. Can I tell you my secret tricks? If I told them to you, would I still be the king devil? Thank you for your teaching, but I have a request. I have only reaped 200 or 300 Chanyuan celestials across more than a decade. Could you be lenient to these 200 or 300 Chanyuan celestials and let me take them away smoothly? I begged. You are absolutely crazy. It is your idiotic dreaming. You want to make a deal with me? Do you think I am a human? I am a god. I must abide strictly by the laws of heaven and never allow any to pass. Are you not building a home? Build one and I will destroy it. Build another and I will destroy it too. Build many, and I will destroy them all until you are impoverished, downhearted, lose all your confidence, and return to my devil's way. If I cannot destroy you with external forces, then I will get into your heart, your consciousness, your blood, and your bone marrow to fully mobilize your demon, animal, and human natures, so that you will guard against, be suspicious of, torture, and destroy each other, make a foul stench of your home, and eventually wear you down. I will make people call you a liar, a scam artist, a rapist, a seductive hypocrite, a villain who destroys families, and a man with the evilest of intentions. If necessary, I will use the state dictatorship machine to arrest you. Do you still have any hope for your Chanyuan celestials to escape from my trap? Hearing what the king devil said, I collapsed to the floor feebly, as if my whole body was drained of blood. My tears rushed out. I wanted to curse the king devil. I was ready to shout out when I woke up in a cold sweat from that horrible nightmare.
个人如何顺应自然之道？
How individuals should conform to the ways of nature. Xiafeng. December 18, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. Introduction. The beauty and simplicity of nature can only be truly appreciated after one has experienced the richness of life. Experiencing the vicissitudes of life teaches you the truth of original nature. Directing the country high-spiritedly only to have things backfire in the end. Pitting one region against another and overcoming all obstacles. These are all totally unnecessary. Surrender to the way of nature. Be content with the status quo and accept reality. Nothing is controlled by man. Everything is determined by nature. If it is predestined, it will appear eventually. If it is not, do not insist upon it. Blessings come, enjoy them. Suffering comes, bear it. I will accept with pleasure whatever the greatest Creator arranges for me. Neither worrying, complaining, getting angry, nor with rage. If there is no sea, I will admire the rivers in front of me leisurely. If there are no rivers, I will take company with streams. If there are no streams, I will just wait for the rain to fall from the sky. If I have a bad fate, then I will not complain about anyone because I have enjoyed too many blessings for the too few merits from my previous lives. If there is no one to help me on my journey of life, I will not blame anyone because I was too selfish and did not establish good ties along my way. Karma is perfectly accurate, so I will eat coarse grain every day, live in thatched huts, and wear patched clothes, but my heart will remain calm and my mind will be relaxed. Do not be jealous or envious. You have your heavenly plan and I have my serenade. You are beautiful and charming but suffer a harsh life. I have an unsatisfactory look but boast a heart of gold. You are earth-shaking and cloud-blowing while I am content with poverty and am devoted leisurely to Tao. You have many guests and your place is crowded with people and vehicles, but I only communicate with the spirit of heaven and earth. You live with the debauchery of villas and luxury cars, but I live with bright moons and gentle breezes. Grass never envies the richness of peony. Weeping willows never envy the fullness of fruit trees. Everything is arranged appropriately, and I neither envy nor admire anyone. Never make excessive demands. Demanding that your cat guards your house, that your dog plows your field, that your rooster lays eggs, or that your sow gives milk would all be against the ways of nature and therefore fruitless. Some things are born with purpose. Others are born with talent. There is neither a panacea for all diseases, nor perfect sages and saints. Command neither your superiors nor your subordinates excessively, neither parents nor children, neither husbands nor wives, and of course, neither brothers, sisters, friends, lovers, neighbors, nor other relatives. Green, swaying bamboo benefits your mind. That is enough. Do not command bamboo to bear dates for you. When someone cooks for you, that is enough. Do not demand that your dish be both delicious and colorful. It is enough to have someone to accompany you on your journey. Do not expect them to fulfill all your desires. Do what you can without taking risks. He who has no diamond should not undertake to cut glass. What will happen when you load 3 tons onto a truck that is made for 2 tons, or if you drive on a curved mountain road at 120 kilometers per hour? What if you pour an entire pot of boiling water into a drinking glass? What if you have only 200,000 yuan in your pocket, but you want to buy a 1 million yuan building? Everyone is like a container which can only hold a certain amount. If that amount is exceeded, either the container will burst or serious waste will occur. If you can only carry 80 caddies, but you want to carry 100 of them, you will be crushed. Therefore, we must do everything within our capability to not take such risks. Watch cheerfully as others run companies effortlessly, but do not imitate them. Watch neighbors build high-rise buildings, but do not chase them. Watch others become internet celebrities, but do not follow them. Watch others send their children to study abroad, but do not send yours. You must weigh your own abilities. If you do not have enough abilities, then do not be too ambitious. Always do what you can, never attempt to do what you cannot.
Non-action means non-contention.
The way of nature has arranged everything in an orderly manner. Whether it is a dog or a cat, a hawk or a chicken, a peach or an apricot, or a man or a woman, everything is arranged and predetermined. Everything is born. In beehives, the queens, drones, and workers are all determined at birth. Their purposes are not chosen by democratic voting, nor can any bee who wants to become a queen through their own hard work become one. The queen needs to hold no meetings with groups of her subordinates to discuss and arrange daily affairs. Each bee does what it is destined to do, and all divisions of labor are clear and orderly. The same is true in human society. The role of each person has been decided long ago. If you are predestined to be a president, then you cannot be a craftsman. If a beggar, then you cannot become a billionaire. If a commoner, then you cannot become a saint. If a thief, then you cannot become a hero with immortal fame. Some people are natural organizers and leaders, while some are destined to be imprisoned. No one's life from birth to death is up to themselves. You can only decide to do what is predestined. It is next to impossible for you to change or achieve anything substantial by your efforts. Only peach trees can bear peaches. No matter how hard they work, they will never bear pomegranates. No matter how hard they study and research, even if they rack their brains and fail to eat and sleep, flies will never produce honey. So practice non-action. Set no goals for yourself. Think nothing about becoming a rich celebrity. Do not expect to become a pianist or any musician, let alone think about how to make yourself a returning Jesus or a Ziwei saint. Every day just do what you should do right on that day. Take things as they are. Associate with others by following predestined relationships. Act in accordance with your nature, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Do not contend with anyone. It is of no use. If it should be yours, it will be yours. If it should not be yours, you will not get it by contention. Point 6. Do not insist. Do not hold. Many parents make plans and arrangements for their children and do not want their children to lose at the starting line. What is their result? Children who are forced by their parents will definitely lose at the finish line because they will have pulled up seedlings to help them grow and will have violated the way of nature. Qin Shi Huang wanted to pass the country from his generation to his progeny after unifying the 6 kingdoms. But Qin II lost his state power and Qin III never appeared. Many people want to pass their family business or their career that they have earned through their hard work on to their children, but the results often backfire. Many people try their best to make their spouses loyal to themselves after they get married. But what happens? 95% of men cheat and 95% of women suffer by attempting to toss their husbands' mistresses out. Those who hold it lose it. Those who make it spoil it. Do you want to control something in your hands firmly? Do you want to spare no effort to defend your treasure? That is whimsical, ignorant, and foolish because nothing can be held or controlled indefinitely by anyone. You had better follow nature and let water flow naturally. 7. Be as good as you can regardless of where it will lead you. Melons' pedicels fall when their fruit ripens and channels form when water flows. When we say that all things are destined and have been arranged long ago, we mean that there are rules and principles for everything and they run in accordance with unchanging procedures for thousands of years. That is, a person's current state is caused by their past thoughts, words, and actions. If they have been doing evil all the time, then there is no doubt that they will be destined to go to hell unless they rein in on the brink of the precipice and repent thoroughly of their misdeeds. If they have been doing good and accumulating virtue, then they will undoubtedly be destined to go to heaven because karma is a program. Whatever we enter into this program, it will feed corresponding results back to us. This is called destined by heaven. This is called the way of nature. Therefore, make dedications throughout your life and neither ask nor care about their results because the program will run and arrange things according to them. When melons ripen, their pedicels fall off. Do not doubt that when quantitative changes reach saturation, qualitative change will definitely follow. What matters is that we stick to these changes for many years or even for the rest of our lives. If this life is not enough, we should continue to do so in our future lives. 8. Have unrestrained imagination and fly freely. The way of nature controls everything except our imagination. Beggars can imagine that they are royalty and singles can imagine that they have 100 spouses. Anyone can have sex with anyone they want to within the world of their imagination. Mortals can imagine themselves appreciating and enjoying heaven, and you can imagine yourself taking the sun away or becoming a wild goose flying in the sky. Whatever you think, this is our free will bestowed to us by the greatest creator. No matter what you think, you will neither be punished nor rewarded. It is even okay if you beat someone up in your imagination, you just need to make yourself happy and satisfy your wishes. None of these imaginings will be input into the causal program. Therefore, you can be unrestrained and fly freely. Here, I would like to point out that motivation and imagination seem to be the same thing, but there is an essential difference. Motivation is an inner activity that you want to put into practice. Imagination is an ongoing or completed conscious activity for self-entertainment. Conclusion. To conform to nature is to conform to objective laws and natural principles and to never impose one's own will on them in order to change anything artificially. Follow the way of nature and everything will be harmonious and people will be happy about everything. Go against it and all things will be disorderly and conflicted. There will be hurricanes, hail, drought, scorching heat, turmoil, war, plague, and famine, and people will be worried, sad, anxious, and even encounter disasters. That is to say, following the way of nature will be rewarded by Tao, violating the way of nature will be punished by Tao, and surrendering to the way of nature will ensure your place in heaven.
自然之道解析
Analysis of the Way of Nature. Xiefeng. December 15, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. The way of nature is the way of the greatest creator of non-action and silence, and to harmony and freedom. It is the outline and the law of the universe, and the way of heaven and Tao itself. By following the way of nature, everything would be in order. The weather would be favorable and society would be peaceful. By deviating from the way of nature, everything would be chaotic and disorderly, disasters would occur frequently, the world would be turbulent, and people would be contentious. By fighting against heaven, our suffering would be constant. By fighting against the earth and each other, our suffering would be endless. By fighting against Tao, our abyss of misery would be endless. The way of nature is profound, mysterious, and can neither be measured nor understood by human intelligence. It is full of vitality which can be neither resisted nor refused. The place that obeys it is heaven, but the place that goes against it is hell. Tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, gales, thunderstorms, floods, droughts, scorching heat, hail, epidemics, insect plagues, and so on in nature are all caused by human society's failure to follow nature's way and all of its warnings to mankind. Wars, turmoil, fighting, riots, revolutions, dynasties changing, diseases, hunger, and other phenomena that occur in human societies are the results of human violations of nature and are its punishments to mankind. How has human society deviated from the way of nature? Things that bring trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, horror, fear, sadness, or despair to people but cannot make them happy, joyous, free, or blessed deviate from the way of nature. I hereby affirm that the developments and inventions of science and the inventions and applications of all tools do not deviate from the way of nature. The 5 main things that deviate from it are as follows. Legal systems with laws, judges, and lawyers have all violated the way of nature. Western societies that govern themselves with artificial laws deviate from the way of nature. Look at the plants, animals, and insects. They have never needed laws or legal systems, but are they not running well? With judges and lawyers, human societies lose their natural attributes and human nature becomes forced into distortion. The people who want to build several houses on their own land are regulated and restricted, and people's attributes of truthfulness, goodness, and beauty are restricted and controlled by laws. The existence of countries violates the way of nature and is equivalent to artificially building a high wall to imprison people within this big prison called nationhood. Migratory birds migrate freely, so why cannot people? According to the principles of nature, human societies must have governments, but just as bee and ant queendoms have bee and ant queens, governments should only be symbols to unite people's hearts, not organizations to manage and regulate them. When governments expand out of proportion and implement their wills upon every aspect of human life, then they completely deviate from the way of nature. The more problems they create, the more bitter their people become, and this is where those governments develop strong wills and subvert the way of nature. Fewer problems exist and people live in peace and contentment when the government has complied more with the way of nature. Our marriage systems deviate from the way of nature because they bind couples together forcibly. They conform to neither the laws and principles of nature nor to those of human nature. If they did, then there would be no phenomena of cheating and betrayals. The thoughts and practices of trying to change other people and their natures go against the ways of nature, such as mutual torture and devastations between married couples, mutual condemnation and strife between political parties, mutual hostility and competition for believers among religions, mutual restrictions and sanctions between countries, and human transformations of nature, such as reclamation of the sea, deforestation of forests, building hydroelectric dams, and transforming rivers, grasslands, wetlands, lakes, deserts, and so forth. All of these thoughts and behaviors violate the ways of nature. All success studies, nutrition studies, talent studies, prenatal teaching, fast learning, doctrines, truth studies, Western medicine, cloning, and so on violate the way of nature. Violations of the way of nature will definitely be punished by it. The way of punishment is to make people suffer, fear, despair, and even die through disasters. Human intelligence will attend to one thing while losing another. The way of nature is the only law that mankind should obey. People in the 1,000-year world and 10,000-year world follow it purely, so everything is peaceful, safe, warm, and satisfying there. Attempting to follow nature would confuse people. They would ask an unlimited number of questions about how issues would be handled. Without countries, who would protect us from them? Without legal systems, who would handle disagreements and resolve disputes? Without political parties, who would manage our lives? How can humans reproduce without marriages? Were people allowed to migrate without controls, would they not all move to the prosperous big cities? Without controls, would the human population not expand indefinitely? Without the police, would people not destroy the ecology and misbehave, and would bandits and robbers not be everywhere? Without strong interventions and restrictions, would we not fight for resources everywhere, and would armies not appear and vassal states not arise that would conquer and kill people everywhere? To eliminate these doubts and obtain answers, we should neither read the writings of human thoughts nor imitate the experiences of human history, but read the books without words, read the heavens, the earth, and all of nature. Were there no humans on this earth, would the kingdoms of plants, animals, and insects have any of these problems? Of course not. We would discover the principles of mutual generation and restraint of the way of nature, its principle of natural regulation, and discover that when anything goes to excesses or extremes, a restraining force always comes into being. If you think that human beings following the way of nature would move them toward the law of the jungle, then look at the state of the 1,000-year world of heaven, and we will surely learn sensible, reasonable, and legal answers from it. 先性 The nature of celestial beings. Xiafeng. November 22, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. Nature is the characteristics of all structures.